welcome to the bonus room. I'm Lewis.
And I'm Holly.
And I wanted to continue our discussion from our last episode about societies, because there's so much I think that we can talk about, and having an open dialogue, we can learn from it. So we talked about great societies and how oppressive they can be, and we've all read George Orwell's 1984, and we're there. I mean, he may have been 30, 31 years late with his prediction, but we're there. I mean, we've got, every time we make a phone call, it's being recorded. And we happen to have a Samsung television, which we just found out they record us while we're sitting in our living room watching television. That's psychotic, for one thing, but it's not right. So, let's boil it down. Let's bring it back. We talked about earlier that, small communities had to band together, and, you get to the barn raisins. You know what? Let's go help a neighbor. That's a good thing. That's a warm thing. You go, you get all this labor, you build a barn, and you've helped your neighbor. You've given that neighbor something that they can help provide for their family. It's a utility. It's an asset. And we touched on earlier in an earlier episode about government. These programs have become lifetime programs for people. They're not becoming a hand up. They're becoming a handout. Excuse me. And what would it take? I mean, it's going to take a revolution, I think, but to get back to a smaller community, and we all provide for ourselves. We don't need or want for anything. We don't need a $7 latte.
No. But we go back to, we start getting smaller, and we have to provide for ourselves. The reason why the farmer's family works so well is that the farmer and his wife have lots of children to help them sustain, and the more kids they have, the more food they have to grow and raise. So we've been taught our whole lives is scale down your families. You don't need the 2.2 kids. You don't need a large family. Small families, small nuclear families are wonderful, and ours is small. We couldn't run a farm with what we've got. We would need to marry off some kids real soon and start having some grandbabies really fast.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a real thing.
Yeah.
We've changed minds. I mean, look what's happened in China. They've asked their people to scale back the number of children they have, and now there's no one to farm. And people are sent west to farm the food to feed the country, because there's not enough food for all the people that are in the country. So it's a nasty paradox.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. And one thing, and I'm going to kind of contradict myself as far as scaling it back and going smaller. The one thing that I really enjoy about, or I have enjoyed, it's got its downsides, about the current day that we live in, the technology, is the internet and social media. And I have reconnected with people that I haven't seen for 30 years or 30 plus years a lot of times. And it's wonderful to see the girl that I grew up with and went to the bus stop every day in 6th grade. She posts pictures of her son graduating or her grandchild, and it's like, wow, that's really cool. It gives me I'm getting goosebumps now. It gives me a warm feeling. That's wonderful. That's a family thing. But I've noticed recently that it's all become about me being the Facebook poster versus you, and we're getting back to that cosmological constant, and that's probably why that was the first thing that we discussed, is because there's so much energy there that it's, these are my political views, and if you don't like them, you're wrong. And I was actually a witness to an exchange between two guys that I played football with that were in the trenches and beating their heads together, and one took one side and one took another side, and they were just going back and forth via Facebook about, you know, everything that's going on in the world. And you know, it's, the world is more divisive today. And again, I'm saying this to my grandchildren and great-grandchildren and people that I may not even meet. But you know, as I was thinking about it, it's like, you know, we talked about the cosmological constant, where you've got these forces, equal forces pulling at you. And now that we're a larger society in terms of population, but we've never been smaller in terms of connectedness.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got clients in China that I'm constantly communicating with, and it's wonderful. But the size of the population generates a lot of energy. And you know, there have been studies, and there's actually a study at Princeton, I believe, that you know, the world has a consciousness. They can map the energy of the world and its consciousness when certain tragedies happen. And you know, so you've got all this energy in the world, all these human beings that are, and you connect, and you know, my energy connects to you, and it connects to our neighbors, and everywhere. But yet we've never been so small. So is that cosmological constant energy just so much greater? The force is so much greater between human beings, because I mean, you have to admit, it's getting really tense out there. And that's one thing that scares me for future generations. Where's it going to end? I mean, it seems to only have escalated. I'm sorry.
That's okay. No. I think with all of the technology that's involved, people, and I'm not just going to say the 20-somethings that have grown up with devices in their faces, but people don't know how to have a face-to-face conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Middle school kids who start to go with someone, or they go on groups to the movies, and they are talking to each other, I believe is the phrase that's used today. I'm talking to this person. Well, they don't have to say anything to them when they decide to stop talking to them. They don't even stop calling them. They just stop texting them.
Mm-hmm.
And they can avoid them. If you don't want to go to dinner at someone's house, you can leave them a text message. How chicken is that?
Mm-hmm.
Call them and tell them. Or what if you have to walk up to them face to face and say, I'm sorry, I can't come to your house for dinner tonight.
Right.
Look them in the eye.
Yeah.
We don't know how to do that anymore.
Very good point.
Because we hide behind all of our social media. We hide behind, I'll just send a text message.
Yeah.
And then that's an entirely different conversation about the misinterpretations of the text messages that you get.
Yeah.
I mean, you and I communicated a lot via email when we
That
first
is
met.
true.
And we had arguments that made no sense at all because of a misspelled word or a misunderstanding in a few words.
Yeah,
Instead
I mean,
of talking on the phone or looking face
Texts
to
and
face.
emails can be misinterpreted. I mean, it may be a curt email just because I'm busy. You know, I can shoot you an email. I want to respond, and it'd be curt, and you take it as, you know, an affront. Like,
Yeah.
well, that's very short.
Time to
He's-
say I love you?
He's
What is
getting
this?
short with me, and yeah, exactly. And just a little anecdote before we leave. You know, we have a 23-year-old son who's in college, and he was home not too long ago, and he was sitting on the sofa, and you know, he had his phone, you know, just doing whatever he's doing with his phone, being stimulated by his phone. And I'm sitting in the chair next to him, so I just sent him a text, "How are your classes going?" he got it, and he just just started laughing. So it was a signal, you know, put your phone down, look me in the eye, and
that's
talk
right
to me.
here. Yeah.
You know, we're losing that, and we don't need to lose that. And I'm afraid us losing that connection and that passion between human beings is going to send us over the edge.
So we don't know if small communities are better.
Well, I think small communities are better, but there's a point. you don't need to get too small, and you definitely don't need to get too large. So anyway, well, it looks like we're running out of time. So please join us again next time in the bonus room.
I'm Holly.
And I'm Lewis.
Keep talking.